Sales reps need to be able to talk about their offerings as verbs and not nouns. And that message, and they should not be coming up with their own messaging. Even if they're good at it, that's not what you're paying them to do. You have other people that, right? So we need to, first of all, get product marketing and sales working much better together on creating and doing this. Now you've got an enablement team in there in many cases, but the second part of it is the salespeople. They're not robots. We don't want to hand them a bunch of, business information about their buyers. They need to understand how to have that business conversation. They need to understand how to probe and understand root causes behind the problems that people are sharing with them. And they need to be able to do some solid diagnostic on the fly, because most companies nobody has money to just buy cool, shiny stuff. If they ever did, they certainly don't anymore. And you've got to be comfortable in building or helping them build a solid business case. That's just an area where companies are weak still.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we look at leadership, but from the perspective of leading a sales team. We have Paul Butterfield, who is the founder, CEO of Revenue Flywheel Group. And we talk about the interesting elements that is going on in sales today, and specifically leading a sales team. When you think about your own sales team, or you want to have a higher performance, you want to have the right leadership. That's a key. You want to have the right sales methodology that you guys are leaning on. You want to have the right accountability. All of that takes great leadership. And I don't think that you're going to have the success that you want. Certainly not going to be sustainable or predictable if you don't have the right leadership. I've worked with a lot of companies that have struggled in this area to find the right leadership for their sales team, and in other areas as well. And so today will be a really good episode for you if you're struggling with any kind of sales performance, if you have a sales team. This isn't about the details of sales in themselves, but it's about activating the team and leading them powerfully. My name is Gene Hammett. I am the executive coach on staff here at Core Elevation, but we also do cultural transformations and really help people become better leaders. Specifically, managers becoming leaders is our sweet spot. And we really believe that leadership at all levels of the company is necessary if you want sustainable growth. Our clients are Inc. 5000 level companies. They're not enterprise, Fortune 500 companies, but smaller companies that really want to grow, create sustainable growth, and really create a kind of self-expanding company. That's one of the phrases that keeps coming up in our conversations. And so if that's you, I'd love to talk to you about what's going on. If you're kind of curious, you don't want to jump in and have a sales conversation with someone because you don't want to buy anything, I get it. But if you're curious about what we do and you want to engage with us, just go to coreelevation.com. That's our company name. /virtual conversations. Every month we have a different conversation that will help you lead your company, because these conversations really are meant to help you be a better leader and create that self-expanding company. All you have to do to sign up is go to coreelevation.com, go /virtual conversations, and you can find out when the next one is, what the topic is. Sign up. You'll get an incredible summary every time. And you'll also be able to ask questions for me and other experts and other CEOs of fast growth companies, because we invite the guests that have been on the show. We invite our clients and our prospects. If you want to learn from fast growth companies, this is one way to do it. And if you want me to help you, all you have to do is reach out, gene@genehammett.com. When you think of growth and leadership, think of Grow Think Tank. Now, here's our interview with Paul. Paul, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We are going to have a great conversation about revenue specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about your company, Revenue Flywheel Group.
Revenue Flywheel Group the Revenue Flywheel I take from, at least the first time I remember learning about business flywheel as a concept, was from Jim Collins, Good to Great, which has got to be 20 years ago. But over my career in leading sales and then enablement, revenue enablement teams, in bringing what I learned in all of that and how you create a holistic enablement program that creates an exceptional customer experience. And I'm now bringing that to clients and helping them analyze where their gaps are and put those systems in place.
Well, I know that I'm a student of sales all the time as I grow my executive coaching business and cultural transformation business. But I also know a lot of our clients struggle with the revenue side. And I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the biggest challenges you are seeing today when it comes to sales teams?
It's surprising. I'll just preface with this. It's going to sound a little basic, but I'm seeing it over and over and over, and I have for a while. Number one is they either don't have a deep understanding of their ICPs or their buying personas, whatever they choose to call them. And by a deep understanding, not just who are they, but why are they buying? What problems are they solving with the problem? How are they, right? Those kinds of things. And if they do have it, they often have not turned it into a resource that sales reps can take and use in discovery. So that's a common problem that I see. Then you get to the sales team itself, and I'll just start with lack of business savvy. And so they don't know how to talk to business leaders about what they care about, which means they default too often to pitches, pitch decks, demos, features, et cetera. Those are a couple of areas that I do a lot of work with clients in fixing those problems. There's more, but we'll start with those.
Well, I love the challenges that you hit us with, because I think a lot of people don't even think about that, understanding the people that are buying from us. I mean, it makes so much sense to me, because I think I spend more time in conversation with potential clients and clients, so that I understand the challenges they have. And after 10 years, I feel like I know how they think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helps me sell as the company goes. But when you're talking with just sales reps, how do you get them to see the value of really understanding these prospects that they're talking to?
Well, there's a couple of approaches. There's a couple of things that need to be put in place if they're not there. One is what I already alluded to. Typically, product marketing or perhaps product owns a surprising amount of data that does not get used by the sales team, just never makes it over. Again, who's buying? Why are they buying? What problems are they solving? Use cases. Sales reps need to be able to talk about their offerings as verbs and not nouns. And that message, and they should not be coming up with their own messaging. Even if they're good at it, that's not what you're paying them to do. You have other people that, right? So we need to, first of all, get product marketing and sales working much better together on creating and doing this. Now you've got an enablement team in there in many cases, but the second part of it is the salespeople. They're not robots. We don't want to hand them a bunch of business information about their buyers. They need to understand how to have that business conversation. They need to understand how to probe and understand root causes behind the problems that people are sharing with them, and they need to be able to do some solid diagnostic on the fly, because most companies nobody has money to just buy cool shiny stuff. If they ever did, they certainly don't anymore. And you've got to be comfortable in building or helping them build a solid business case. That's just an area where companies are weak still.
Yeah, it's no longer just a relationship play for sales.
No,
it requires you to bring some perspective and context around these things, and really probing questions that I think a lot of people get lazy about. How do you help your clients, really be the kind of salesperson that they need to be in today's marketplace?
Typically, part of the root why the things that I described are happening is they don't have a good sales methodology, or perhaps they have no sales methodology, and or they're not using it. I can't tell you how many times you run into somebody, or talk to people that are saying, "Oh, we're a and I'm not picking on medic. It's just one I hear a lot, right? Oh, we're a medic shop." But then I go talk to the sales engineers and others who are on the front lines, and they tell me, "Well, yeah, we went through the training, but nobody's using it, et cetera." So I have learned over the years that a methodology that is customer centric, that's critical, number one. But number two is capturing expected and consistent customer inputs through the sales process is absolutely critical for a few reasons. But that starts with a great discovery meeting and starting off with, is there a business case there? If there's not, walk away politely. Bad news early is good news in most cases. And we hang on to deals far too long in our pipeline that never have a chance.
We've been talking about sales strategies, and I had a mentor of mine talk about something was interesting about listening. And I just wanted to share it with you. Her name's Angelique Brewers. And in this sales training, she said something that was really profound. I share it with you today because I want you and your sales team to be activated. And this is a very simple way to do it. Instead of listening for why the deal is going to move forward, that's common. Be listening from why it won't move forward, so that you can ask questions about their buying process and who else needs to be in the room, and about the typical challenges that they get into and why this might not work, because you don't want to have happy ears. You want to listen for why it might not work. I share it with you because I feel like it will help you tune into what's really going on and not just be looking at the optimistic perspective in the best case scenario. Because in sales, if you do that, you might miss out on what is standing in the way. And so I offer you this as a strategic element to activate your salespeople and lead your sales team to the next level. Back to Paul. I know what you mean. I want to ask you another question around sales leadership, and maybe we can take the whole conversation around sales leadership, because I think that's an area where you've got a lot of experience, and I've seen a lot of even my clients struggle with having leaders that are holding people accountable. They have what I would call light accountability, yet they want to have structured accountability. They want really to know where people are, but yet they don't want to do it. Why do you think there's so much problem with accountability in today's sales forces?
I think a lot of it is most of us are fairly nice people at heart. Which what I mean by that is we tend to shy away from difficult conversations. And so the conversations that you're describing, sales leaders need to be comfortable having them. They also need to have been enabled and taught how to do two things. One, do the analysis to understand why a sales rep is not successful. Some of it may just be straight up sales math. Some of it may be one of my personal frustrations is when I talk with companies, and I've worked at companies where they'll say things like, "Oh, well, our pipeline coverage is 2.7x." No, that can't be all there is to it, because if 80% of that sitting at stage one and you're in month 3 of the quarter, you're in big trouble. So do they understand the leaders? Do they understand how to analyze the full pipeline and make sure the reps have coverage at every stage? There's just different things that cause the problems, but they either don't know how or they're uncomfortable with the difficult conversation.
Paul was talking about difficult conversations, and I just wanted to take a moment to let you know, if you didn't already know, that I published a book with my wife. It really is getting to the heart of difficult conversations. We actually call it How to Have Tough Conversations. There's other books out there called Difficult Conversations. What makes ours different is this. It's very practical and actionable. It is the most practical book you can find. It's about 150 pages. It's meant to be short. It's meant to be to the point. There's a few stories in there to help you unlock, what we're trying to share with you. But the frameworks, the phases, the tools that are inside this will help you undoubtedly have better conversations, help you get over the avoidance factors that are going on. But all you have to do is wherever you buy books, go to How to Have Tough Conversations, and you will be connected. If you just want to download the free tools, you can go to How to Have Tough Conversations, and it's absolutely free for you. But the book will range from like $9.99 and up. Happy to help you with that if you have any problems. But check out How to Have Tough Conversations. Back to Paul. I probably didn't even tell you I have a book coming out.
Oh, no, you didn't.
And it's just perfect alignment with this. How to Have Tough Conversations.
Yeah.
It wasn't designed for salespeople. I will tell you, it's designed for leadership, because that's what we typically do. But I think it's universal, and most people are avoiding these things. I know there's one story in there where I shared my ability to ask questions, even though the prospect kept saying no. And what I remember doing is I was reading body language. I was reading a gut feeling, if you will, of saying, well, what else is there? What else is there? And they kept saying no. And I probed to the point where they're like, all right, shut the door.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you what's really going on, because I had the courage to do this. When you're working with salespeople, like these difficult conversations you've been talking about, what is the biggest thing you wish they understood about these tough conversations?
The sellers, you're talking in the seller and buyer interaction?
Yeah.
Having carried a quota for years, I understand the psychology behind it. But there is really, rarely at least, any purpose in holding on to an opportunity that's never going to happen. But if I take that out of my pipeline, now I have to go find, and I have to do X amount of outbound and different things to go find another opportunity to replace it. And yes, that's difficult, but hanging on to opportunities that you never had a shot at is only going to bite you in the end, no matter how easy it makes your pipeline calls with your manager go for the next few weeks. So that's something you need to understand is if there's not something there, don't push it. You're probably not going to, people don't respond to arm twisting and that old style of selling. So there's not much chance you're going to be successful anyway. And move on. Go find something you have an opportunity. That is it's not so much maybe it's difficult conversation with the customer. It's also a difficult internal conversation because
Mhm.
of the other dynamics that I mentioned. But at some point, they have to get comfortable with it, or if they're going to be successful.
I agree. That's one reason why we wrote the book for
Yeah.
leaders, but also we think it works really well in these situations.
Yeah.
I
Look
want to
forward to it.
switch gears to Paul. Your experience with watching other sales organizations
Mhm.
who would say, yeah, it's important to invest in employees, it's important to have training and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I'm noticing this quite often is people will not have appropriate training for their sales reps.
Mhm.
They're not onboarding people powerfully, and they have such a turnover that they think, oh, I'll just add more bodies and that will help us. I don't think that's the right approach. And again, I don't want you to let my perspectives, sway you in any way because I'm biased.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes down to training, like high level, what is the right kind of mixture for training that you would say for a company that has 10 or 20 sales reps? How often
Mhm.
should they be training, and what kind of training really makes them excel at sales?
Yeah. So it's not a simple answer, because the standpoint is, where are they in their career? Where are they in their career overall? Where are they in their career with your company? When I look at the life cycle of a seller, I put them into three high level stages. One is new hire, and everything that implies. They're trying to figure out which way the bathroom is, right? They're excited, but they don't know much, and they're not very capable yet. You want to get them from that stage as quickly as you can into what I call proficient, which means they've been trained. And enablement is more than just training. Training is definitely part of enablement, but that's a mistake companies make. But that my point is that they can now talk to customers. They're probably a little more over reliant on a leader or a sales engineer than we ultimately want them to be. And so the next phase we're trying to get them to is that conversant stage where they're very comfortable. So you need to first do a gap analysis and a skills gap analysis and understand where each of the folks in your sales organization is right now, because it's not a one size fits all. The other benefit of that skills gap analysis, is understanding where your focus should be, where you can have the most revenue impact, and that type of thing. So take a scientific approach, but companies don't. A lot of times training involves, just like you said, some onboarding, maybe product training, webinar once in a while, that kind of thing. And it's not strategic. It's not planned out.
I'm playing in my mind some conversations
Mm-hmm.
I've had with clients, and I'm not going to say
Mm-hmm.
who it is because I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
out anyone, protect the
Yeah.
innocent. But they keep coming back and said, well, industry knowledge is such an important, and I don't disagree with that. But
Right.
I'm like, I'm not here to teach you industry knowledge. I'm saying I'm not here to teach you really anything, but I'll have a conversation to facilitate the mindset of sales quite
Mm-hmm.
often, because I think the mindsets, one of the biggest things I've used to unlock people is, and this comes from one of my coaches, it's like, sales is not something you do to someone, you do it for them.
Yeah,
And that mindset shift is so powerful.
it is.
But when this happens over and over and over, they're just not really accepting that it's ongoing growth. Even mindset, I think for salespeople, it's a
Right.
constant tune up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't just like let it go and like, okay, I've got it set up, because
Yeah.
rejection is the norm inside
Yeah.
of sales. We're getting more
Yep.
no's than we are yeses,
Right.
in most cases. So mindset wise, how are you keeping salespeople tuned up and sales leaders tuned up for the right mindset for success?
The mindset starts with acknowledging and accepting that you don't know it all and you don't have it all figured out. Even a seller who was crushing it in 2019, going into 2020, if they haven't adapted, in most industries at least, they're not crushing it anymore. I mean, we look at the dynamics, the number, depending on, you listen to Gartner or Forrester, there's different folks out there doing this research, but the number of decision makers, for example, has gone up 2 to 3x. And if those aren't decision makers, or people in those roles that you are already very comfortable talking to, salespeople, all people, but salespeople especially, kind of navigate away from conversations that they don't feel confident in, which means you have got to grow into understanding those roles, understanding why they would look at a product or service like you're selling, and that sort of thing. So that's one problem, is the sales market's constantly evolving. So if you're not, as a seller, you will fall behind. There's no stasis. You may get by for a while with tricks and trick plays and things like that, but ultimately, no, it's not going to work. So understanding and acknowledging that. One other thing that I try to help sellers understand is even if you've been selling this market for a long time and you probably know exactly what's wrong in your client's business based on that's not a great experience for them. It's like, I don't know if you have kids, but anybody that's got kids can probably relate to this. It's a lot easier just go do something than teach your child how to do it.
Yeah.
And it goes the same with a sales process. If you're not skilled at bringing the prospect along in seeing for themselves the problems that can be solved and the outcomes they can achieve, et cetera, with your product, you just telling them it's not a great experience, assuming they believe you at all. So you need to slow down and get good at bringing them along and helping them see it for themselves. Those are great starts.
Really specific things I think that people could do, because I've noticed even my own self and journey of studying sales and getting sales coaching and taking it very seriously all my life. I mean, it goes back more than 20 years. I really appreciate you being here. And I don't know if there's something we've left out of it that is a central part to the success of your organization. What could we talk about as we wrap up today's call that really would be a home run for you?
To me, I want to make sure that anyone listening to this understands how critical we all give lip service to customer centricity. But how often do you hear sales organizations, sales leaders asking questions like, well, where are they in our sales process? Right there, that tells me there's a problem, because where they are in your sales process is semi-irrelevant. Where are they in their buying process? How well have we diagnosed their buying process? We understand it, and how well are we aligning to it? That is a major shift for most companies. And it's not giving up control of the deal velocity. In fact, when you get good at it, if anything, you get better deal velocity, and you also get better at spotting red flags earlier in the process. But that's something that I think is critical. A critical takeaway I would want people to is understanding that concept.
Well, great place to end today's conversation, Paul. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your insights around sales growth and performance, and I really appreciate your wisdom.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. I've been looking forward to this, and it was fun.
Another great interview here. I love sales. I really think it's one of the key elements of business growth, and I believe that every entrepreneur should understand the core sales principles and really know how to do it, know how to grow a sales organization. Today is about leading a sales team. So hopefully you got some insight around it and took some notes and can apply those inside your own company. If there's any way we can help you, make sure you reach out to us. If Paul's company can help you, make sure reach out to him. But we really want to help you grow your company and create sustainable growth over time. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, think of courage. We'll see you next time.